On the windowsill of his cell, there were indentations, marks left by the elbows of Eric XIV, the King of Sweden, as he leaned out to gaze through the murky glass of the narrow opening. He strained to catch a glimpse of his beloved Katarina and their children. While Eric was imprisoned in the tower of Turku Castle, Katarina lived in a tiny cabin on the opposite bank. Thus ended the love story of the Swedish king and the Finnish merchant woman, a tale that had begun like a beautiful fairy tale. In reality, her name was Katarina. She was ethnically Finnish, born on the 6th of November, 1550. The name Katarina came much later, when her fate took a dramatic turn. For convenience, we'll refer to her as Katarina. Her parents came from humble beginnings, a peasant mother and a retired soldier father. Naturally, money was scarce in their household, so they tried to send their children out to work as soon as possible. While one of her brothers learned to repair shoes and her younger sister babysat for the neighbors for a few copper coins a week, Katarina ventured into trade. The pretty blonde quickly found success. Her attractive face and charming smile drew customers in droves. In the old market of Stockholm, Katarina sold fish, berries, mushrooms, and nuts. Her lovely voice rang out above the darkened stalls, and everyone who heard it acknowledged that Katarina had a remarkable timbre. In May of 1565, King Eric XIV of Sweden was captivated by the enchantment of her voice. At that time, Katarina was just 15, while the king was 32. She was selling nuts when he happened to ride by and, out of curiosity, decided to catch a glimpse of the owner of that beautiful voice. Upon seeing her, he forgot everything else in the world, quite literally. He returned to the palace, unable to think of anything or anyone but the lovely merchant. Their first meeting took place a couple of days later. It's unclear when Katarina became the king's mistress, but by the following year, she had given birth to a daughter named Sigrid. She quickly moved from her tiny, dark room in her parents' home to a separate mansion with servants, no longer needing to earn a living. The king was generous, though not extravagant, and Katarina didn't insist on lavish gifts. The girl from humble beginnings proved to be quite modest. However, any relationship with the king could not remain a secret for long. Eric himself grew weary of hiding Katarina from everyone. He devised a bold plan to marry her and shared his intentions with his advisors. The king's brother, Duke Johann, immediately declared Eric insane. The clouds began to gather. The king's brothers were vehemently opposed to Eric marrying a girl of low birth. Disapproval also came from other high-ranking nobles. Feeling trapped, Eric began to see conspiracies everywhere. In this unstable state of mind, he suspected Count Sture, once his loyal aide, of treachery. On his orders, the entire Sture family was killed in Uppsala, but no evidence of wrongdoing was ever found. The king was left in shock. The deaths of innocent people weighed heavily on his conscience. He sought solace in Katarina's arms, who soon gave birth to a son, Gustav. That same year, against all odds, King Eric married his beloved. The wedding took place in Uppsala Cathedral. Katarina Mansdotter, the nut merchant, daughter of a peasant and a soldier, became the Queen of Sweden. However, the reign of this couple lasted only 87 days. Eric's brothers, Karl and Johann, conspired against him. His suspicions were not unfounded. The legitimate king of Sweden was escorted back to Turku Castle. He was informed that while his family would be spared, none of Katarina's children would ever inherit the throne. Eric's confinement was arranged with a degree of comfort. He was given several rooms, and 12 servants attended to him and his family, while a nanny helped Katarina care for the children. Before long, their family had grown to 4, as a son named Henrik was born during the imprisonment, followed by another son, Arnold. It may not have been royal living, but it was certainly decent. Still, Eric longed to reclaim his throne. Unexpectedly, the King of Sweden found an ally in the form of Ivan the Terrible, the Russian Tsar. Secret negotiations began. To throw off suspicion, Eric took up astrology and started casting horoscopes, pretending to be utterly fascinated and to think of nothing else. However, Since communication between the king and the Tsar went through a long chain of intermediaries, there was a weak link in the chain. Eric's jailers discovered that the king was planning an escape. The guard around the Swedish monarch was increased to 100 soldiers, and as punishment, he was separated from his family. Katerina and the children were moved to a small house across the river, so Eric could only see them through a narrow window, and only in good weather. The family was reunited at Castle Castelholm, where Eric was soon transferred. The only one missing was their son Henrik. He had died of pneumonia in Turku, and they even arranged a cannon salute for his burial. After all, he was a royal son. In 1573, Eric was permanently separated from his family. Katerina and 2 of the children were sent back to Turku, while their son Gustav, by order of the new Swedish king, was taken to Poland. Yet Eric continued to pose a threat to his brother, who had seized the throne, so in 1577, the deposed king was poisoned. Back in the 16th century, this was only whispered about, as there was no evidence. However, by the 20th century, researchers examining Eric's remains concluded that they contained a significant amount of arsenic. Katerina lived until 1612, outliving all her sons. She was only able to see her unfortunate son Gustav once, and that was 20 years later. He had been forbidden to set foot in Sweden or Finland, so he wandered through Europe. Interestingly, another Russian Tsar, Boris Godunov, became involved in his fate. He planned to marry his daughter Ksenia to Prince Gustav and invited him to Russia. But by then, Gustav had long lost interest in life and cared little for his future or reputation. Chronicles from the early 17th century state that the prince behaved in a completely unroyal manner and managed to anger Godunov so much that he was exiled to Uglitch. There, on foreign Russian soil, the Swedish prince died in disgrace in 1607. As for the only daughter of Katerina and Eric, Sigrid, she was married twice and had 3 children. Although she was not officially titled princess, she still bore the royal surname Vasa. But that is quite another story. Subscribe to my channel to learn more captivating tales about Europe.